to introduce the next panel, I think it's important to point out that information wants to be free. It yearns to be free, such as the information that Giacomo Zucco loves cappuccinos in the afternoon. You know, it's. I promised him I wouldn't say it, but I can't help it. The information wants to be free. Speech wants to be free, right? We should seek not to restrict any sort of speech or information at all, because it will find a way out no matter how hard governments try to suppress it. So please join me in welcoming to the stage to moderate this next panel, the fight for free expression, Giacomo Zucco of Plan B Network. Please give Giacomo a very warm welcome to the stage.
Hello. Thank you. So we are talking about whistleblowers, clearly. People leaking inappropriate information. So to discuss this further, I call on stage Gabriel Shipton, that was already with us last year. Big round of applause. And Suna Ivarsdottir. First time with us, right? Have a seat. So since it's the first time in Lugano for you, Suna, if you don't mind, we start with you.
Of course.
And even if you are here representing Courage International, we started a little bit before. So what's your involvement with freedom of expression before the current fight with Courage International? How did you start getting involved in this?
Well, my name is Suna, as you correctly said, Giacomo, and I'm a recovering politician. So before I came to Courage International, I was a member of parliament for the Pirate Party in Iceland. And before that, I worked as a journalist focusing on human rights. I'm a human rights lawyer by trade, and I've been fighting for freedom of expression, well, I think ever since I remember. I've been very expressive myself and felt the oppressive weight of normalcy, trying to push down any kind of difference of opinion. And I felt strongly that we can't really have a free society or democracy without freedom of expression. And this has been my fight for quite some time.
Amazing. So now you are just stepping up your fight to join the Bitcoin family, and we will discuss about that a little bit.
Yes.
Gabriel, I think the public of Lugano already knows you, and of San Salvador as well, and well, Amsterdam and Miami in every Bitcoin conference. But in case somebody is new with your recent battles and your recent engagement with freedom of expression issues, you can tell a little bit about you and how that started for you.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I think I've been to every Plan B conference since
the very beginning.
Yeah, since the very beginning. And I did hear a rumor, not just that you like cappuccino after lunch, but that you like a pineapple on pizza.
Okay, we are going to, not all the information must be free. We're going too far.
I wonder if you're actually Italian. Did they do a blood test for your DNA test or something?
Not for tax purposes.
Okay. So I guess my fight for the free expression really started through my brother Julian Assange. When he was imprisoned, that's when I guess was politically activated and started to really fight.
So before you were like Dorma, you were not really into this kind of topics. It was the event itself, the trauma itself, to basically project you into these discussions.
Yeah, I'm a film producer. That's what I do. That's my job. I tell stories. They're all political now. I used to do feature films, drama films, but everything has a political tinge to it. But it was seeing Julian inside, seeing him inside a maximum security prison back in 2019 that really pushed me to fight for his freedom. He was being kept in the medical wing of Belmarsh prison on suicide watch, and over the 14 years of his detainment, I never had seen him in a state like that, and I left the prison that day thinking that I might never see him again, and that's what propelled me on this journey. And 5 years later, Julian is now free. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people at this conference, particularly the organizers, Paolo and Give and yourself, have been talking about this issue for many, many years, and your contribution, stands stands proud in the fight to free Julian. So thank you to everyone as well. Lots of friends made at this conference over the years. But Julian is free now, but the fight continues. And we have organisations like Courage International and my organisation, Information Rights Project, which is now focused on getting other people out of prison. So other whistleblowers, journalists who are locked up in prison, getting them out and getting them free, because that really is the essence of sort of continuing the mission of WikiLeaks in a way, to protect journalists, to protect whistleblowers, and using the political network to get them out of jail, but let all whistleblowers and people thinking of publishing information that might lead to persecution, that there are organizations out there that have their back, that they're not alone.
And we're getting there in a minute. We will talk about the future of this fight, but let's stay a little bit on the past just for the last question. Suna, how did your political and journalistic career intercept the Julian Assange story? I think you played a very big role. By the way, Gabriel was thanking Paolo and Guy, the organizer, but we also should thank the municipality of Lugano, which was also at the political level very much involved. They also made a proposal to host Julian during the extradition process, so it was super active about that as well. So how did you come in contact with this specific fight, and what kind of role did you play in it? Because I think it was a pretty big one.
For me, at least, it was very, very significant, and I think it did matter quite a lot in the Free Assange campaign as a whole. So, in tandem with my political career in Iceland, I was also a member of an organization that is called the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which is sort of the political arm of the Council of Europe. Many people here might remember or recognize the European Court of Human Rights. Well, the Parliamentary Assembly is a body that consists of parliamentarians from all of the 46 member states of the Council of Europe, and we form this political body that monitors state compliance with human rights. I've written many reports for the Parliamentary Assembly, specifically focusing on political prisoners in Russia, in Belarus, in Azerbaijan, and the last report I wrote was on the detention of Julian Assange and its chilling effects on human rights. And the adoption of this report, I think, became very significant once he was freed. Now, I first met Julian while he was still incarcerated in Belmarsh prison, and at the time, it didn't seem like there was any chance that he would be freed in the near future. In fact, we deeply feared that he would be extradited to the United States. And seeing him there, interviewing him for my report, and experiencing the kind of attitude I got both from the British and the American authorities during my investigations, I became deeply concerned about his safety. That being said, once my report progressed, it was actually, I think, the day before, that the night before we had a hearing on his case, an official open hearing about his case. He was freed. He was given a plea deal, and we all had to throw our speeches out the window. Our poor interpreters didn't really know what to do. They had to improvise with us. But that didn't change the fact that Julian had to plead guilty to violation of the Espionage Act, which is a very draconian law. It set a very dangerous precedent, meaning that the United States can follow people that are not United States citizens across borders, get them detained, and get them to confess to a crime of journalism, like Julian has described it, and send a very chilling message to all publishers, journalists, truth-tellers around the world that this is what awaits you if you poke the bear. And I think it was significant that we got this report approved by the Parliamentary Assembly, that the political body of the Council of Europe agreed that he had been a political prisoner, agreed that allegations of torture that he was subjected to during his time in Belmarsh prison and before that should be investigated, that the Espionage Act should be amended, and that the extradition legislation of the UK should be amended. I think it was really important specifically because terms of his plea agreement mandate him to not seek justice. like any ordinary citizen that has been subjected to the kind of treatment that Julian was, would have been able to do before the European Court of Human Rights, no less. But his plea agreement precludes him from seeking justice in Europe. So that's why I'm really proud of having made this report, of having gotten the political arm of the very body he cannot go to admit that there was wrongful acts committed against him, that he was arbitrarily imprisoned, that he was in fact a political prisoner. And it was a great honor that his first address after being freed, his first public address, was to the Council of Europe. He came to speak to us right before this report was adopted by the Parliamentary Assembly.
By the way, Bitcoiners last year celebrated the liberation of two figures, freedom fighters that are very dear to the community. One is Julian and the other is Ross Ulbricht.
Yes.
But Ross was pardoned while Julian had to basically plead guilty with this kind of arrangement that precludes any kind of justice seeking and maybe some freedom of movement. So recently there was the news of Trump pardoning our shitcoiner friend CZ. So what do you think about the Trump pardoning dynamics? Is there any chance or any active campaign to try to extend that to Julian as well in order to increase his chances to also seek some kind of reparation for the kidnapping and torture he was submitted to?
Yes, certainly. We are running a campaign to secure a pardon for Julian. It's on a simmer at the moment. It's we're sort of building up activity around that. Before the election at the Libertarian Convention, where Trump actually announced that he would pardon Ross Ulbricht, he also said he was considering a pardon for Julian Assange. So we know that it's...
Which actually, sorry to interrupt, many Bitcoiners that I spoke with were considered even more probable than Assange because, than Ulbricht, because the WikiLeaks case also had some kind of political influence over the US campaign. So everybody was giving the Assange probability odds as higher than the Ulbricht one. And then instead it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, that's right. I think, Ross's campaign very smartly utilized the libertarian vote in the United States, and they were able to use that as a leverage point to the Trump administration to secure Ross's freedom ahead of the election. So hats off to his campaign. His mother campaigned tirelessly for him. I would often see her in Washington. Lynn, she's incredible and an amazing, strong hero in her own right. But they did a fantastic campaign and got the result, although Ross did spend a lot of time in prison, but now he's free. So I'm not sure how much a pardon costs these days, but it seems that they can be done, as we've seen with CZ just securing one. So we're hopeful that probably more likely towards the end of the Trump administration, that he could potentially pardon Julian. I don't know how Julian would feel about that, whether he'll have to do like a hostage video like, oh, thank you, President Trump, because it was the Trump administration. It was the Trump, people forget this, it was the Trump administration that put him in jail in the first place. Exactly. It was 2017 when Mike Pompeo declared this fatwa against WikiLeaks, right? He said, he was the first speech as CIA director, said, we're going to come after Julian, we're going to come after WikiLeaks. And that was in 2017. 3 years later, Julian was taken from the embassy, put in prison where he was kept for 5 years. It was a Trump DOJ that brought the indictment against Julian. So I think it makes sense for him to unwind that. Mike Pompeo is no longer part of this administration. He's sort of politically being cast aside now on the rubbish heap of history. So there is, I think, a window for him to be pardoned. He has some very high-profile supporters in Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, so people who are very close to very close to President Trump, who have Trump's ear, would be asking for a pardon when the time comes.
Suna, now with Courage International, beyond the Assange case, what are the next frontiers? What are the next fights? What are you working on specifically? What is the priority that you are following recently? And tell us a little bit about the future of this fight.
Thank you, Giacomo. So, as you might or might not be aware, the Courage Foundation was founded, amongst others, by Julian Assange to help whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, who was the first beneficiary of Courage, with legal defense, with financial support, with international advocacy, and we've helped many other whistleblowers like him along the way. Now, since its inception, almost 12 years ago, a lot of things have changed, right? We've seen this massive explosion in technologies that have also come with their own set of repression. So privacy-preserving technologies and censorship-resistant money and the technologies that are involved with that have also bred a certain type of oppression. We've seen backlash against people that create for very legitimate and lawful purposes technologies and then get prosecuted for somebody else maliciously using this technology, right? So Courage, at the current stance, I was hired to relaunch it, to focus its central hub to Europe, where I have quite strong connections and a good know-how on how things work here, and to set up shop with the aim of also including our work, extending it towards technologies, technologists, I'd like to say rather, people working to create privacy-preserving technologies, people that are being persecuted for having made technologies that help people stay safe, and people that are advocates for Bitcoin or anything else that are being persecuted for essentially enabling people to obtain censorship-free money. So what we're looking into now is also explaining to the public how Bitcoin can be used for good, how it can be used actually to strengthen freedom of expression, democracy, and this kind of free society across countries. Now I'd like to introduce a topic, I'd have to unpack it a little bit, which is transnational repression, and specifically transnational financial repression, which is quite often used by despotic or autocratic governments against dissidents that have then fled the country. So what these countries do, and here I name countries like Azerbaijan, Russia, Belarus, China, Turkey, there are many more. They misuse the international AML systems against their dissidents, so that as soon as you have asylum, as soon as you're in a safe place, like let's say Switzerland, Russia brings up the AML wand and gets you debanked, gets you cut out from any real civil society. And there are very little defenses against this. There's very little means and ways to which you can complain about this because it's very murky territory. And Bitcoin has emerged as one of the few saving graces for people that are in positions like this. So it's been extremely helpful for them to have access to crypto, to have access to Bitcoin, to be able to pay rent, to be able to buy groceries, to be able to live some sort of a life despite this transnational repression and debanking that they have suffered. And this also works in an opposite direction, which is getting money to dissidents inside autocratic regimes. This has been done with great success, for example, in Belarus, where the protest movement has in a large effect been funded by Bitcoin. And it can also, there are also examples of this going to Russia and other places where it's extremely dangerous to receive international money transfers. It's just very likely to land you in prison. So what I wanted to do with this information is to show people that haven't even thought about the orange pill the good uses that Bitcoin can be put to. Because I find that a lot of people are suspicious of Bitcoin. They believe it's only used for money laundering or criminal purposes. There are a lot of sort of preconceptions about what it is about. And I think introducing this good purpose means to people will also help them see the good that Bitcoin can do in society.
So let me try to also re-summarize the uses, that the connection between the fight for freedom of expression and Bitcoin that you listed, because I think they're very important. So one, when these dissidents come to another country, they get debanked because of abusing the AML system, so they can use Bitcoin to survive, basically.
Yes.
And then the second, if you had to send them funds, you cannot use the banking system, otherwise you flag them against the regime, so you can send Bitcoin. And of course,
third, of course, I think the most well-known human rights type used for Bitcoin is resisting financial censorship and repression. WikiLeaks is a good example of this. The Canadian truckers is a different example of this. There are many others. Alexei Navalny raised a lot of funds also with Bitcoin. And in general, when you have this deplatforming and debanking happen to you because of your human rights actions in the West, the Bitcoin community can really assist people and resist censorship.
And that's the way Courage International Operations can use Bitcoin, but there is also the other way, how Bitcoin developers may use Courage International in the future. For example, you mentioned something that seems very close to the situation of Samurai Wallet developers, or Bitcoin Fog, Roman Sterlingov, or a Tornado Cash, to get back to our friends, which still are unjustly imprisoned. So there is a strong connection between Bitcoin and this. Gabriel, you also have an organization, right? You are creating as well an organization that will fight this fight. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it does, what kind of specific campaigns are you going to run in the next future?
Yeah, that's right. So when we were fighting to free Julian, there was no single organization that could help us, that could give us everything that we needed as Julian's family to continue fighting for his freedom. So we built the bike while we were riding it, in a sense, and that's what the Information Rights Project is. It's everything that we learnt fighting for Julian's freedom, the network. We've got like a vast subscriber list of people who are passionate about these issues, are passionate about freedom of speech, and the Information Rights Project is essentially carrying on that mission, building on the success that we all had in freeing Julian Assange, and now using this vehicle to fight for others who are imprisoned, namely whistleblowers at the moment. And like I said before, it's like continuing that mission of WikiLeaks, protecting journalists, protecting whistleblowers, but this time using, I guess, more a political machine, a grassroots political movement to do that, which is what we found was extremely successful in freeing Julian. It came from everyday people, Bitcoiners, getting involved, making a difference. It wasn't a top-down thing that got Julian out of jail. It came from the bottom up. And that's what we're trying to do at the Information Rights Project, helping people like CIA whistleblower, or alleged CIA whistleblower rather, Joshua Schulter. So I mentioned Mike Pompeo earlier in 2017, declared WikiLeaks a non-state hostile intelligence service. Which meant that the CIA could use clandestine operations against WikiLeaks, similar to the Russian FSB or other intelligence services. But it was because of a leak that WikiLeaks published, the Vault 7 leaks. And that was the biggest leak in CIA history. And what that leak exposed was how the CIA had backdoors into our phones, into our televisions, how they could turn on and off our vehicles, they could switch on and off our cars. But it wasn't just the fact that the CIA had these tools, it was that they had lost control of them, that they were out in the wild. And that embarrassed the hell out of the CIA, right? And that's why Mike Pompeo went so hard after Julian at that point. But it wasn't just...
Not just to be exposed as criminal, but also incompetent.
Completely incompetent, right? Like, this is the CIA. We're talking about lost control of their hacking tools. Like, anyone could find them and use them. But so they went after Julian, and he suffered immensely at the hands of the CIA and Mike Pompeo. But they also went after this young guy who worked at the CIA, Joshua Schulter, and alleged that he blew the whistle and that he leaked this information. Now, he's 36, and he is serving a 45-year sentence in a Colorado Supermax prison. And he's been held under special administrative measures, which is a prison regime that is designed to break people down and to break them down mentally, to destroy their minds. And this is what this young man, this 36-year-old man, is facing for the next 45 years. And so we want to activate the network, the people here who helped us free Julian, to help us free Joshua Schulter, I know the Trump administration could commute his sentence, and they could set him free. Similarly, like the Obama administration did to Chelsea Manning, she only served 7 years of her 35-year sentence, whereas Joshua Schulte could have a similar scenario. But it will be through grassroots political pressure that change will be made, and that's what we're trying to do at the Information Rights Project. So you can go to informationrights.org and join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated with information on that. But I just wanted to tell maybe a little anecdote about Julian and when he got out of prison in the United Kingdom. So I was talking to him in the lead up as things were locking in and things were getting organised, and he was like, okay, we've got to get the prison van's going to come really early in the morning, because it had to be a big secret, right? Like nobody could know that he was leaving the United Kingdom. And so the prison van arrived at 2 a.m. He was put into the prison van and whisked across London to Gatwick Airport, where Australian government had hired a private jet to take him to the Mariana Islands, where he would plead guilty. And so he got in this van, and they changed all the traffic lights.
Did he know everything that was happening has been
Yes,
informed?
yeah. So it was all being planned with the Australian government and with the DOJ. The deal was all planned, and the Australian government was really the guarantor of his safety, that the US wouldn't double-cross him. And so he got in this van, and they changed all the traffic lights across London so that he could, just whisk across London to the airport. And he got to the airport early, and the airport only opened at 6 a.m. So he had to sit in a van outside the airport for a few hours. And it was all a big secret. And so they went into the VIP terminal in the airport, right? And they're waiting in the VIP terminal with the Australian High Commissioner to the UK, who's the top diplomat. Some of Julian's lawyers were there as well. And they were looking out to the fence of the airport, and they could see crowds gathering there, and some press photographers rocking up, and they were like, "Oh shit!" Like
Somebody knows.
Yeah. Somebody has leaked it.
Information wants to be free.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the cappuccinos that we have to worry about here. So they were like, "Oh shit, what's going on?" So everyone's like checking their Twitter, like trying to see if there's any news, like what's going on. Anyway, the waiting areas in the VIP lounge are all glass-walled, right? So you can see who's in the next one, and there was one a couple down that kept filling up and with more and more people. And like, oh, what's going on there? Anyway, so eventually more and more people started rocking up at the fence, and there was more and more photographers, but there was nothing on the news. They couldn't see, Julian Assange escaping or anything like that. Anyway, it turns out that Taylor Swift was leaving at the same time as Julian on the plate. So Taylor Swift was Julian's cover to get out of the United Kingdom.
Amazing.
And so then, how you have flight tracker, like Elon Musk complains his jet's always tracked or whatever. So then you had Julian Assange's jet and Taylor Swift's jet in the air at the same time. And flight tracker, Julian Assange was like number one for a little bit, and then Taylor Swift went number one. And so she like beat him, even though he's like the, most famous political prisoner. Taylor Swift won on the flight tracker there.
Seems to win a lot, yeah.
You're a filmmaker. I don't want to
it's a
give you
great
any
story,
suggestion,
huh?
but this is great material.
Good story.
Suna, Gabriel also had some calls for action about the organization. So we have 2 minutes for you to ask the audience in Lugano for any kind of call of action about the future of Courage International and everything that you think Bitcoiners and Plan B people should know and do about this fight.
Well, right now, I think, first of all, Schulte is a really important case, and the conditions under which he is being held, I think, are torturous and barbaric, and I don't understand how a country that considers itself civilized and Western, like the United States, can have something like SAMs, or special administrative measures. Just the extreme isolation and the horrific conditions that people are placed under, it contravenes every international agreement that the United States is part of. So, I know that doesn't necessarily surprise all of us here, but it is still something worth noting, and it's definitely worth supporting. But because I'm here in Lugano, so close to Italy, I feel like it's extremely important to point out a very important case as well, which is that of Francesca Albanese. who has spoken out for Palestine, who has bravely, yes, thank you, exactly. A round of applause for Francesca Albanese, who has bravely written report after report about complicity in the most horrific crimes of our days against Palestine, and has been slapped with sanctions from the US for speaking truth to power. Now the EU and Italy could be doing something to defend her against the consequences of these unilateral and completely unfair sanctions that the US is imposing on her, but as far as I know, have not done so. So looking out to the horizon, what Courage will be focusing on is getting the EU to step up and protect her from the consequences of these sanctions, and also addressing Italy for its utter and complete failure to protect their own citizen. And of course, calling out the UN for not standing with an expert, a specialist that they hired to do this work. And I think freedom of expression really depends on us sticking with and protecting the people that have the courage to speak truth to power. And Francesca is an example of that.
Keep the applause going because we are over time. Thank you very much for our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.